bolster women's voices across all industries and sectors of life. Women in business have made much progress, and women's role in our society has in many ways shifted for the better. The venture ecosystem comprising venture capitalists, founders, startup leaders remains predominantly male, despite recent efforts to focus more attention on gender diversity within the industry. According to an analysis performed in the EU market, only 1% of total venture capital was dedicated to women-led businesses in Europe in 2021. As per a survey by PitchBook carried in the United States with latest data for April 30th, 2022, we find that venture capital funding overall has surged in recent years. But the numbers haven't leapt forward for female founders at the same pace. One major question that arises here is why venture capitalists are not investing in women-led businesses, even though women are creating their spaces in the business sector and their businesses are even generating higher return of investment compared to several male-led businesses. Is that investment and support towards women-led business are still lagging? Will it be right to say that one of the biggest gender gaps is a lack of financial services for female entrepreneurs? Let's please welcome our first moderator to discuss on this session. She's the Chair and Executive Director of Nexus Global Financial Services Limited. She sits on the board of several companies and funds active in Africa. She is a board member of INQ, Convergence Capital Partners, Women to Investment Company, Catalyst Capital Partners, Seacom Limited, Activa Finance, the Boardroom Africa Foundation, Hyde Energy Limited, etc. She is the chair of the investment committee of Umutu and sits on the governance and remuneration committee of Convergence Capital Partners. Additionally, she is a member of Women in Business Networks and devotes a lot of the time promoting and advocating the role of women in business. Let's please give a big round of applause for Nusrat Valilu. Moving on to our first speaker, we have the Chief Fund Management Executive of Rogers Company Limited. She also acts as the Fund Manager and Executive Director of Accession Limited, the largest real estate company listed on the Stock Exchange of Mauritius. She has over 15 years of experience in the finance industry and specializes in corporate finance, valuation, and deal structuring, both locally and internationally. She also has a solid track record in company listing and fundraising. Please welcome Belinda Wong-Bashi. Thank you. Our next speaker. She's an active angel investor in early stage startups via Go Beyond Investing and Swiss Health Angels, and has co-founded an initiative to develop angel investing out of Mauritius, Mo Angels. She's also involved in coaching emerging entrepreneurs, an independent non-executive director for IBL since 2019. She's also non-executive director of Afreja Bank Limited and an independent director of 535 Ventures, a gender lens focusing on women founders. Please welcome Isabelle de Mello. Thank you. Our third speaker is the Group CFO of MUA Group, a regional financial services company listed on the Stock Exchange of Mauritius and operating in Mauritius, Seychelles, Kenya, Tanzania, Uganda, and Rwanda. She is responsible of all MUA Group's financial functions, which include operational and financial strategy, assessment of organic and acquisition expansion opportunities, solvency and capital needs monitoring, financial planning and analysis, treasury and corporate finance. Let's give a big round of applause for Mehta Ali. Last but not least, we would like to welcome one of the executive directors and co-founder of Accufin Corporate Limited, a Mauritius-based independent licensed offshore management company. She's a seasoned professional, counting over 10 years of experience in the financial industry of Mauritius, with specialization in offshore banking, offshore business structuring, and legal and management of offshore companies across several offshore jurisdictions. Let's please welcome Mehsana Hossain-Bokas. Thank you, ladies. The floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I see you're all sleepy, and I'm sure you want it to finish quickly and go home. We'll try to make it interesting so that it's worth for you staying over. So thanks a lot to Women in Finance and Investment Network for giving us this opportunity to be here with all these wonderful ladies. And today we'll try to share what we know about access to finance, what works, what doesn't work, and also share our own experiences with you. So shifting to the picture to Mauritius, we have seen the intention of joining and setting up the Street Trades Hub, which is a global initiative of the International Trade Center that has the goal of connecting 3 million women entrepreneurs to markets and a global network of international buyers to bolster new trade opportunities for women-led businesses in Mauritius. That was done last year in November 2021. Therefore, we can find that there are many initiatives that is being done. We find that Mauritius is developing capabilities required for the demands of post-COVID-19 world by making training, networking, and access to new market and customers accessible to women entrepreneurs. Maybe let's have some looks at statistics. Mauritius forms part of the African continent, and we have a huge market, so we can't forget the continent for whatever business we do here. So statistics show that only a small amount of funds goes into businesses with women CEOs. In 2019, that's for Africa, $52 million out of $1.3 billion which were raised. Only $52 million went to women businesses. In 2020, it was even less, $41 million out of $1.7 billion. In 2021, it's a big jump, but it's still very low. It's $288 million out of $4.4 billion. And in the first quarter for 2022, $28 million of $1.8 billion. This is according to an article from the Big Deal Substract.com, Max Covedier. So in 2021, only 6.5% of the total investment went to women-led businesses. So one question I have, what are the challenges that women face when looking at raising finance that are addressed to Isabel? Why women-led businesses are attracting less than 7% of the total available fund? Funding is there, we have the capital, why we are not accessing that capital?
Thank you, Nusrat, and thank you for inviting us. I think, well, number one, the first stat, the fact that it's 6% is quite impressive, because the stats about the rest of the world is that it was 2%. So I don't know if this is just the time frame that we're looking at, but anyway, it remains a very small amount. I think the problem goes back completely at the beginning, is there are less entrepreneurs, female entrepreneurs, that get to the stage of asking for the funding. And so we go back to the whole thing about the education, the family, etc. So, and the whole support system. I think what's important is that we also, another one of the stats that I looked up before coming here is that in the VC world, only about 16% of the people working in the VC world are women. So there again, we would find that bias, and only 2% of the partners are women. So that certainly has a part to play. But I think in the entrepreneurial journey, exemplarity, role models, and we've spoken about that this morning, is really important. What would make somebody go and do that journey? If in the family it's something that's acceptable and promoted, there's a likelihood that you'll feel emboldened to start the journey. And if along the way you have mentors that will help you, hold your hand when you need it, and support you and make the connections that you need to make this happen, then that will happen. I think that, I mean, we set up No Angels a year ago. I've been an angel investor for 15 years now. I started in Europe, and then when I moved here, I decided that I wanted to do the same thing here. I'm happy to say that in the few deals that we've done up to now, based out of Mauritius, not necessarily in Mauritius, we've had women founders. Now, is that linked to the membership that we have? Maybe a little bit in the founding membership, where we're 50-50. Today, the membership is a bit different. We're around 20% women. So I hope that through our introduction here, that a lot of you will want to join our journey. But I think that this issue about role models, whether it's in your family, whether it's a support system of your parents, of your spouses, of your brothers and sisters, these are really important things along the route. So I think we have less people going the journey, so ultimately we have less people arriving at the end of the journey, and everywhere the funnel gets narrower and narrower because the gender bias is there at every step of the way.
Anyone would like to?
Is it working? Yeah. Anyone would like to make any comments on that?
From my side, I mean, if I had to share a point of view, I probably think that it all, I mean, starts from historically where, I mean, it all started. If we look at our ancestors, for instance, it has been historically, I mean, forever been the case where women had, I mean, the basic role of being at home, and then gradually, I mean, we were introduced into the educational system, I mean, more and more, and then it evaluated to, I mean, you have having women in different sectors where before you wouldn't have been seeing them, driving and then emancipating accordingly. They started to be introduced to the corporate world. So being an employee, yes, it takes, I mean, the courage and it takes determination to embrace a function. But then starting, I mean, as personally being an entrepreneur, I think it requires a bit more of struggling, it requires a bit more of determination, and to go up to the extent of actually looking for that funding is where really now you're taking the commitments of really taking obligations, and this is where probably I think it's not always the case that the funding is not there, because we have microfinance, they are factoring, they have leasing opportunities. It's more about probably as well, I mean, from my perspective at least, more of a demand and supply perspective, whereby is it really, we have really that chunk of the market that are going forward to request for that financing options.
Thank you, Meta.
Thank you, Mesa. If one of us wants to set up a new business and it's a startup, we are starting up, so where do we go to find the finance? What do we do? How do we go about it? Maybe Mehtab, you can help us to understand a little bit better the different sources of finance available.
There are several things. start to look for finance, I think the next steps are always the same. The entrepreneur, whether men and women, they have to decide what they want to do, prepare a business plan, define the strategy, building the figures, go and find the finance, whether it is banks, leasing, crowdfunding. As has just been said, there are numerous sources of finance in Mauritius or abroad, and we all know that there is a large liquidity on the market. So the funds are there. So what do we see? We see a lot of entrepreneurs going out on the market, but what we also see is that there are many more men going out to start a business than women. So what is the problem? Is it that men are more confident or more resilient than women? Not necessarily. And what happens is that most probably women do not dare to it. But the finance is definitely there. You need to be strong. You need to be resilient. It is complicated. Business world is never easy. And what has been said regarding role models, I totally agree with this. I think the main impediment today for women are actually women themselves. They really need to go out of the way and start businesses and try it out. I mean, failure will happen. I think throughout our careers, we have all known that we succeed, we fail. What is important is to continue. I think this culture is not necessarily created equal by nature or by when growing up. Men are more competitive, men are more focused, are harder maybe, and they dare start businesses more.
Thank you. Absolutely. I believe that in Mauritius we have 3,500 women entrepreneurs, and 90% of them are still in the micro enterprise phase, right? And getting, how do you access finance initially when you start? Initially, when you have an idea and you want to start a business, I think you would need your own funds and go to family and friends. Because if you see Fundkiss have been helping, right? They have the smallest amount that they have lend. It's a platform that you can lend money and entrepreneurs can borrow money. You can borrow from 50,000 up to 5 million, right? It's easy. But the thing is, one of the conditions is that you need to have 2 years of business. I mean, you need to have 2 years of track record. So if you're starting up, you have to have that small finance, start small, do it yourself, get some friends and some savings to start at least, because otherwise going to banks is very difficult. No one is going to finance. Banks would not, small amounts, no way you're going to get back. And so there are angel investors. We'll come back to that later on. There are angel investors, there are future female investors, women like us. We don't have a huge amount of money, but we put some money together, right? Because we want to help others. And we've done a number of investments, small amounts, like 10 of us. We've invested. And what Go Angels also is doing, and trying to get more women to come. So we invite you to come and join Future Females and Go Angels, both of them. And you don't need to invest huge amount of money. It's just a small amount of money. Look at the investments that you like, and if it talks to you, give it a push. Do that and help the others, right? So.
I have one question. Just one second.
So Belinda, you have been working in in finance sector for over 10 years, and you currently hold the position of Chief Fund Management Executive at Reuters. You are a strong advocate of being competent at work, at the work we do, and with that achieved, then there would not be gender issue. If you are as good as your male counterpart, which is really true, and there would not be issues. And so allow me to ask you, what is financial inclusion for you, and how can it be achieved?
Thank you. I'll start probably by a statement because I prepared a little bit before coming here. So I wanted to start with a statement which says, money is power and power is everything. Women with money and women in power are two uncomfortable ideas in our society. So while preparing, I started reflecting on my own journey, how I started when I finished school and how I started working, studying and striving as well to study, finding time to complete an MBA, and right now I'm trying to complete also another master in law. And the upbringing of my own 5-year-old daughter. So, and I would sum everything up into one word, which is freedom. Freedom of choice, freedom of thought, freedom to realize dreams, freedom to decide. All women should be equal, whether she's a CEO, whether she's a housewife, whether she's a teacher or a nurse. The point here is that she should be free to decide of her personal journey. And I did a little bit of research. So, for example, based on the International Labor Organization, 50% of women participate in labor force as compared to 75% for men. Women are more likely to work in informal employment and low-paid jobs or sometimes undervalued jobs. And women do not enjoy the same access to financial services as men. And there was a very stunning figure that I've seen. 66% of all those without a bank account are actually women, meaning that nearly 1 billion of women on this planet are unbanked. So by now, I suppose you would probably wondering why I started with freedom and how freedom links back to money. While money cannot buy freedom, having money actually meets all our basic needs. It gives us freedom to choose what we want to do, when we want to do, and how we want to do it. So this is my definition of financial inclusion, which is about empowering women to unlock economic growth. And I believe there could be a lot of ways to achieve financial inclusion, actually. So it probably starts with education. And when I refer to education, it's not about learning debit, credit, etc. It's about learning how to, for example, manage a budget, earn a living, how to borrow, saving. You know, these are very basic notions, and you don't need to be an ACCA to understand those things. I think it is very important in today's day and age to understand how financials have implication not only in terms of business but in our everyday life. And I think it is essential to increase financial literacy and help women to manage their own bank account and their earnings, for example. I'm pretty sure a lot of people here in this room know women who work, but at the end of the day, they don't manage their revenue or their earnings. So, and they still need to be accountable for whatever they spend to somebody in their family. So there is another question which has come to my mind, and I don't necessarily have answers, but I hope the question will trigger something in your own thinking. How many women, for example, in Mauritius take home loan in their own name? I guess today most of home loans are taken either jointly or by men. So I don't have stats again. And then the question that I asked myself is home loan a male affair? The second thing I started reflecting on is flexible working hours. And we hear this quite a lot these days, but do we really understand what it means flexible working hours? So the reality is that if for women, and I'll just take my example, I have dedicated myself, and it's a choice to dedicate most of my time to my professional career, but at the same time I still have a family and I need to look after my 2 young children. So childcare for me is a game changer. Fortunately, I have a very good backup system around me. How about the rest? What about flexible working hours? And when we are talking of flexible working hours, it's not only about women, it's also about male counterparts. And I think today the burden, household burden, should be shared. So the next point that I wanted to talk about is the recognition of what I call unpaid labor. And it's going to be a bit funny probably, because I also reflected on the word housewife, and whether some of us have asked themselves, why do we call it housewife, and why Oxford Dictionary doesn't include the word house husband? I don't know, but these are things that today, you know, there are words and there are things that we do, even our legal system, financial system, insurance. For example, I've taken an education insurance for my kids, but still the mailing would come in the name of my husband. So I was just wondering if, from a civil code perspective, is this something which is normal? So I don't necessarily have all those answers, but these are things which right from the start already set the trend, and I think this should start changing. And when I was referring to the word house husband or housewife, I am going to be probably utopic, but today unpaid labor is not recognized, and I think the best way to do it is by law. And for a spouse who looks after the household, maybe he should be entitled to a stipend. I don't know. But these are probably things which we should start thinking about. And another point that I wanted to bring on the table is about microfinance. Certainly entrepreneurs faces a lot of challenges, and like Metab said, the finance are there, and they have to come structured, prepare their business plan, etc. But there is also another reality in my view, is that banks still, for example, ask for a number of conditions to be met, and people need to realize, or I think financial institutions need to realize that sometimes these persons are not what we qualify as bankable. What I mean by bankable is probably they don't have sufficient collaterals. Probably their risk profiles are excessively high. So, and it's a chicken and egg situation in my view, because the banks would probably, they have their own risk to manage, and also the entrepreneurs, they also want to get things over the line, and I think we should start somewhere. So probably financial institutions need to review their business model to take into consideration those aspects. And the last point that I wanted to finish on is on the mindset. I think all women should feel that they can, and they can certainly realize their dreams. They have all the abilities, and they should believe in their dreams.
Thank you so much. Thank you, and this is so true. So I think it's believing in oneself is so important. And later on, I'll tell you my story, and I'll tell you why believing, is important. And your belief, I think the way you believe in yourself changes through the years, right? I'll come to that later on. But now I just want to return back access to finance and to Isabel. She's a promoter of More Angels. She set up More Angels, and I just want to ask, what has motivated you, Isabel, to set up More Angels? And also, if a woman entrepreneurs come to you, what are the factors that you think are important? What do you look at to say, yes, we invest in that business? And what would you recommend to us as women entrepreneurs? How do we pitch? What is important? What we should look at for us to be able to get finance from our angels?
So thank you for the question. What brought me to the angel? I was, when we've been talking about freedom and support system and so on, and if I look back at my own career, I was fortunate. I had an education from my parents. They paid for my studies. I mean, I achieved my studies by working hard and making it into the university or business school that I went to. And then I chose my career. I was certainly lucky. I think I married the right person, that when I decided that I wasn't going to stick around because there were some things I didn't agree with, said, yeah, go ahead, leave. And so I left. And so that is also, and as you said, when you decide, I have 3 children, they're big now, but when you decide to spend a lot of time for your career, you need to have an extremely good support system and somebody that does at home with your kids what you're not there to do, and drive them around, etc. So there is a little bit of luck and determination and drive that goes into making that happen. I almost did a management buyout of an aviation company. Thank God in the end I didn't, because I probably would be bankrupt now. But it was very frustrating because my deal was the best deal. I had found people to finance my deal, and they had financed it because of my drive, because of my determination, and because of my track record. I wasn't the selected buyer, and after that, I moved into another phase of my career, and I realized that I had been lucky to work, particularly for one company which I spent 6 years in. And when I joined, it was $100 million revenue and 400 people, and when I left, it was $1 billion revenue and 4,000 people in 23 countries and factories in 7 of those 23 countries. And I thought that I had been lucky to learn all the mistakes, all the hard things, all the things that you need to anticipate, and that perhaps the path of a startup is generally a fast growth pattern, and I'd probably be able to give back. And so I stumbled upon somebody, and then I started my journey, and I'm ashamed to say I don't even know how many companies I have in the portfolio anymore, probably around 30 in different sectors. And my excitement has been to help people who had ideas. I was never an entrepreneur, and help them bring that to fruition. And it's so exciting to be part of that, and there's such a great satisfaction. Obviously, I had some savings, I was able, but angel investing has been about putting $3,000, $4,000 in a company, sometimes more, but it's because we do it 3, 10, 20, 40 people, then we end up having the $40,000, $50,000, $100,000, and perhaps more, because sometimes we attract other people. So it was a mixture of giving back and the excitement of participating in an innovation journey that brought me to this. And when I moved to Mauritius, which is back to the origins, because my mother is from here, I decided that I wanted to do the same thing here, and that's how, after a few early years, the first 2 years, I finally identified 3 other people that were excited by doing this journey, and I also thought that Mauritius was a bit of I thought there must be entrepreneurs somewhere, it's just that I haven't found them. And if I'm part of the puzzle to help them make that journey, that will be exciting. And we will, and I know that there are a lot of intellectual resources, network resources in the community that is Mauritius, and then later on we will try and reach out to the diaspora and to help create the enterprises of tomorrow. I mean, this is what we want to do. We want to give opportunities for people to come back, and if they want to do their journey here in Mauritius, and it can be Mauritians or it can be other people that will find it exciting to do it here, We want to be able to provide them with this ecosystem, which is before the banks get interested, before the different people think that we reach the point where they're too risky, and after your friends and family have helped you. That first little bit is either your savings or that of the people that are close to you and believe in you. That little bridge is what I'm now involved in, and which is called angel investing. And so I'm really excited. We've been alive for a year now. We have 34 members, so this is quite an achievement. We're celebrating our first birthday, but we want to be 100, because when not everybody has time to do this, because it is extremely time consuming. We need to be 100 so that we always have about 10 or 15 that have the time to do the diligence, that have the time to mentor. It's not just about giving them money, it's about giving them also some of your time, your expertise, your network, and your reach to make their journey faster and easier. So yeah, that's how I got this far. And we've only done 4 deals today, almost 5. One is being closed right now. Only one in Mauritius, but I think the next 3 deals that we're doing are in Mauritius, and they're super exciting. Some of them are super tech, some of them are about art and culture. So yeah, but this is very exciting.
Yeah. Thank you, Isabel. But just what's important for you and your team?
Sorry. Look, what's important is the team that we see. It is the people and how committed they are and the drive. Generally, it's not going to be a single person. The entrepreneurial journey on your own is really difficult. So it's the team balance, the quality, the vision that they have, and then how they think that they're going to execute. The 2 key things in that entrepreneurial journey is obviously the idea. You have to solve some sort of a problem. There has to be a need for what you do. But it's the people and the execution plan. That is one of them. The business plan side of thing, that's a bunch of numbers. They're wrong by definition because you're too early. We need to make sure that you have done the exercise, because we want to see what did you think about, what are the risks that you've identified. We know that the plan is probably very wrong, but that's okay, because hopefully, and generally women are more conservative in their plans than men are, because so that is a fact. We hope you're going to exceed what you're showing us, and we want to make sure that your mindset is to study scenarios, to what if this, what if that, and yes, we will look at your Excel sheet. But the most important is the energy, the drive, the commitment, and the fact that you are determined to get to that point. And we know you may fail. Out of 10 companies that we invest in, only 2 will make it. A few will sort of, and 5 will die. We know that, and we hope it's not you if you start that journey, but if it happens, as you said, just stand up and try again. Because if you have that drive, that is the most important thing that you'll have in that journey. Did I answer the question this time?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. I think I would say passion is really important. You must be passionate. You must love what you do. You must believe in it and make it happen, right? And also, we have in Mauritius a number of accelerators. We have future female accelerators who help you, who train you on the different front, finance, on HR, on many matters, for you to be able to go and seek finance. And there are crowdfunding available, though you can access the crowdfunding, even if it is not crowdfunding companies in Mauritius. You can access crowdfunding, you can access the angel investors, there's a number of them in Mauritius and outside. And what's missing in Mauritius, I think we don't have many microfinance companies. We do have only one which just got its license. It's Anglo-African, they just got the license to lend small amounts, but that's missing microfinance. You see how microfinance has helped in India. And in Africa and India, it's huge. I mean, if you see like companies like Ramin Gupta how they have been successful. And I was lucky to be to sit in one of the funds that has invested in Grameen, and today it's listed company, and we are proud to see, what initially you've invested in these companies and now what they are doing. So we don't see much of that. For sure, Mauritius is a small market. It's only 1.3 million. It won't attract. But you could look at these, African microfinance funds that do Pan-Africa, because Mauritius is part of Africa as well. So now I'll turn to Mehtab. Mehtab is insurance. Very often we forget about, how do you manage our risk? That's so important. So owning a business most certainly generates income, but at the same businesses incur high costs into producing goods and providing the services. As a matter of fact, it becomes essential for business owners to protect their assets during unforeseen events, right? An insurance policy is vital for businesses as it manages the risk and reduces any financial uncertainty during accidental damages and losses. So, Mehtab, let me ask, what is the importance and relevance of being properly insured? And what are the factors entrepreneurs should consider? And also, so how are insurance companies encouraging women into insuring their business? Are there any schemes that you have been formulated so far?
Thank you, Nushka. This is a key aspect to consider when you are an entrepreneur. By definition, an entrepreneur will be taking risks. But the entrepreneur needs to decide what type of risk he wants to take and what type of risk he wants to transfer actually to an insurance company. Basically, what I would say is that any risk which really can undermine the survival of the company should be transferred. For example, if a company cannot survive the fire, cannot survive the flood, ideally he should transfer this risk to an insurance company. So you are out there when you ask the question what factors to consider when insuring a company. Actually, insurance is a strategic decision. Each entrepreneur needs to look at, okay, what is the business I am in, what is the industry, who are my clients, and what are my risks. For example, if you take a construction company, an insurance like workers' compensation is very important. Injuries happen. This can cause a lot of expenses, whether medical expenses, wages which need to be paid, or disability. So when you are in such an industry, workers' compensation is very important. It will not necessarily be the case for a company in banking, for example. Cyber insurance would be more relevant for the banking industry. So any entrepreneur needs to make a risk assessment. Okay, what are my risks and what type of risk I need to insure? And then you also need to understand what is available in the market. Actually, lots of things are available, but it must correspond to what you are looking for. If your risk or your customers, so maybe something like public liability would be important. If there are very large risks which can arise from your employees making mistakes, so again, this is professional indemnity insurance. So there is a lot of work to be done before you choose what insurance your needs, what is available in the market, and obviously the price. I mean, everything has a price these days, and you have to strike the right balance, the balance between the risk you want to take and the cost you want to incur to be able to transfer this risk. Yeah, it is really a key decision because it is a lot of expenses. But I would really encourage you any entrepreneur to look at things very holistically and to make a decision based on all the risk assessment that you have. The other question you asked, Nusrat, is regarding what is being done specifically for women. And to be frank, not much. Whether it is in Mauritius or in Africa, where the women is present, we do not see lots of things that are being done to sensitize women on the importance of insurance. What we see is quite a lot of sensitization to risk. In Mauritius, there was an association which has been set up, a risk assessment association, which is good. It sensitizes people on what should be insured. We also see lots of things that are being done for small businesses. We have things like Spark and things like that. So it is yet towards newly set up companies. It is good because you have some kind of umbrella cover which takes into account several types of risk and which is quite applicable. But I wouldn't say that there is anything very specific. Yes.
I believe it depends on the stage the company is as well, because there's a cost to that. So for startups, you won't go for an insurance when you've grown a certain level and you want to attract maybe venture capital or maybe private equity. If you are insured, it shows that, one of the things it shows really that you are managing your risk. You look at it, you think about it. And one thing which we have not said, I always say that to young entrepreneurs as well, is really about governance. What private equity we would look at is really the governance structure, and whether you have a proper board, whether you may have a small business, but have you been doing board meetings? Do you have records of minutes? Have you been recording your decisions? Do you have an independent board? Who's the board members? If it's a husband and wife that has set up a business, it's only the two of them sitting on the board. Do you get advice from someone? You may find it, oh, I'm just starting up. Not worth for me to look for someone else. But one of the success factors of really startup is having good advisors, and having someone sitting on your board helps a lot. And that board would help guide you on things to do, on your strategy, and also checking. You need to have your vision, and you check. It's you starting up. You have a vision for 3 months, for 6 months, for a year, 2 years, and then checking. Am I doing it in the right direction? Is this the right business? Should I continue? Have I achieved what I wanted to achieve? If it's not achieved, what should be done to achieve? And these things would help company to grow.